Hey, folks, welcome to the show. Hey, Sharad. Today, I'm in particular very excited because, the product offering of our guest is something that I'm sure all of us have thought of at some point in time. We all have been students for, I think, half of our lives. We're not that old. And throughout that journey, be it from coaching to getting admission in a place where we really like to go, but financially it's going to be a large burden. We have always thought of how to finance it.
And it's also the business that we like the most. It's a business that's heavily represented on our podcast channel as well, which is core underwriting or core lending.
Absolutely, yeah, fintech, but fintech which probably everyone should be able to understand and appreciate. So, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Bibhu Prasad Das, founder of Propelld. Bibhu, welcome to the show. I'll give you a bit of context before we kick off. Bibhu, obviously you come from IIT Madras, you were at IIM Calcutta, you are a financial services person yourself. You spent some time in Credit Suisse. You also spent some time in infra project financing. And then I think Propelled has been going on for the last 6.5, 7 years. And Propelled is a Bangalore-based fintech into this domain of education lending. And you're a Series B funded company backed by Westbridge, Stellaris, India Quotient. And we saw that your main offering is you do personalized loan products based on the course's end use and borrower's profile. Your focus is on tier 2, tier 3 cities. All that is great. We won't spend any time on the Indian education market or the Indian education lending market. I think we are all sold on the notion that it's a very large market. We have around 300 million plus students in the country. 120 billion of annual spending is going on in education, all the way from secondary, higher, coaching, after school, before school. We know and obviously there's a large influx of Indian students going abroad also. What we'd like to know is, if I am a student or I am a potential borrower for Propelled, uh, what is the criteria you look at, while kind of engaging with me at any level? And obviously that would be tied well with also trying to understand which part of the student journey Propelled intervenes into. I think that might be a good framework to kick off this conversation.
Okay, thank you so much, Nikhil Sharad, for inviting me on this show. And thanks for the lovely introduction that you have given. Yes, Indian education market is quite big enough, and it does not need a justification to say, yes, it is big enough. It's quite evident that it is big enough, and a lot of money flows there. On top of it, the fees at the individual level, as at an individual customer level, has been doing at a far greater pace than what the inflation rate in the country has been. And no matter COVID, no matter financial depression, the education fees keep on growing. So that's a constant march forward. We believe that till a few years back, the fees were at a stage where people could still fund it out of their own assets, savings, or money they had put aside. But the increasing trend has put the fees at a point where increasingly customers are finding it difficult to fund the education fees. And it is true across the ecosystem. Like broadly, we divide the education ecosystem into three segments. One is the K-12 segment, one is the higher education segment, and the third part is the supplementary, or the segment which supports K-12 and the higher education, mostly coaching, test preparation, and all these players come there. And the fee trends have increased across the board. So it is not like only one type of fees is increasing. Everyone has increased their fees. Even if you have a small kid and you're putting them into prep, the fees have become crazy, to be honest. Like if we compare it to our times, it is just crazy increase. So yeah, so that is the case with the ecosystem. How we went about solving for it is was in a way defined by the ecosystem, by the type of liability partners that we had and such. So initially, when we started building out Propelld, the three co-founders did not have much experience in retail lending. So it was very difficult to convince lenders to design products and come into a segment which had traditionally given high NPAs. So the public sector banks and all which had gone into that segment had faced high NPA levels, and they were reluctant to take a bet on newbies who had no credit experience, no risk experience, no retail lending experience, and believe in their credit and collections and take things forward. So the type of products we could get from them was slightly smaller ticket size loans and a smaller tenure. So we could not actually, so if you look at the three segments, it could not go after the higher education market where the fees were quite large and the tenure requirement by the students has to be also longer. But we could go after the K-12 and the supplementary segment. And we went after the supplementary segment first because in K-12, we believe that the parents who are taking a long-term bet on teaching their kids for 10 to 12 years, they have taken the money aside to ensure that it's an annual expense and they can pay for it. So the requirement of loan would be more in supplementary, which are more shorter tenure expense products. That's how we took it.
And in that, sorry, just one clarification. In that K-12 segment, the borrower is the parent, right? Typically, it's not going to be the student. But I guess in the sort of secondary education, does the borrower become the student?
In the higher education, yes, you're correct. So the fees are quite large. Parents who can pay for it, they can pay for it.
Okay.
The parents who cannot pay for it, they are given moratorium, and then the repayment start after the study period, and the students pay back the EMI of the fees.
Yes.
But that is not true in case of K-12 and the supplementary space. In India, parents spend for almost 23 years of your life on your education. And it's very dissimilar to European and American markets where parents don't fund you after, I think, secondary. After the age of 18, you are supposed to take care of your own expenses. But in India, that is not true.
Yeah, but it's also probably not true because there were no avenues to finance it, right? I mean, that's one of the problem statements that you're addressing, right? Yeah.
Yes. So that is the key reason. So there are not many financial options. But apart from that, it is also a mentality thing. In India, parents are more closely involved in the expenses and the living of the students also. They're far more closely connected than what you see.
I think this show can very easily go into the the benefits, the perks, and the harms of excessive parental involvement. Anyways, but yeah, please continue.
It is there. So still, Indian families think that बच्चे का पढ़ाई is their responsibility. अपनी responsibility. Most parents think, and I think the current generation has started going away from that belief, but it's still there.
But बीच में cherry pick करके they bring it back as per subject to convenience.
Yes, exactly. I would say. So so the segment that we started off was the supplementary space. The type of where we fit into the customer journey is the point where the sale is being made by the institute to the student. So we don't do a B2C sort of we don't have a B2C sort of approach in the supplementary space. We tie up with the education institutes. We have some.
So when you say institute here, it will be like coaching centers, online platforms, and so on.
Professional skilling.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And it's like a partner-led model. So you kind of go through them in terms of it becomes like an embedded feature of sorts, right, in their offering.
Yes, it's an embedded feature, but it functions very differently to the Flipkarts and the other e-commerce sites.
I understand. It can't be like a BNPL, like plug and play. And embedded. The problem is embedded has been now, where as soon as one says embedded, that visualization comes in. Yeah. Right.
आपके जो buying decisions है ना, आप वो website पे ले लेते हैं. Like if you want to buy a fridge or TV or something, यहाँ पे ऐसा नहीं होता. You speak to someone,
consultation,
convinces you कि हाँ आपके बच्चे के लिए सही है. So it is more of a sales-driven process rather than a online information-based decision making.
Understood.
So the embedding works in a slightly different way. You need to have a tool which integrates into the CRM tools of the institute,
Right.
so that sales people can utilize your tool to provide you leads of the customers that are interested in that.
Interesting.
So thoda alag chalta hai.
Got it.
So, Bibhu, just to understand, like, this is very interesting. And when you look at sort of the K-12 segment where the parents are or the guardians are the borrower, right? That seems like a type of underwriting where you have a lot of data points because presumably parents have regular income and there's a cash flow profile that's already there on which you can probably underwrite, and there are models for that. But when it comes to the competitive or secondary education side of thing, there again, the borrower is the person who's probably never earned a single buck, right? So you're essentially completely underwriting on future risk profile.
So there I would differ a bit.
Okay.
In the supplementary space also, a lot of our underwriting
Is on the parents. Is on the parents only, right?
It is on the parents, but most of the time, Indian people, the credit penetration is still very low. Like CIBIL score is not there for most people, and even if UPI penetration has increased, many of the people won't have much online transaction per se. They still transact in cash. Like the type of people we are giving loans to, if you take their bank statements or you try to tap into their mobile messages, you will not get much insights into their earning and spending pattern. So wahan pe we take the bet on the end use. Basically, let's say, for example, we have tied up with Alin or Akash for IIT JEE or medical training. A person has flown down from, let's say, Chhattisgarh or Raipur or some city where their parents are based out of. Maybe he's a farmer, maybe he's a SME owner, small scale, or a shop owner or something like that. So it will be very difficult if I am asking them to give me documentary proof of their income.
Yes.
So there we take a more of a bet on the Akash Allen's filtration criteria first, that they would not take in all people who come to them.
Right.
So they have some tests and they understand whether the student will be able to follow that course.
Yeah.
We take a slight bet on the student that he is good enough to complete the course. So if he is going to complete the course, then we are going to get back our repayment from the parents.
Yeah.
So the major risk that we face there is not about parents' ability to pay, because if a person has decided कि उसका kid आकाश आलन में medical या engineering coaching देगा, so he has made arrangement. The only problem you face is the student is not able to follow the course, or he does not like the course and he chooses to drop out.
Yeah.
Then parents feel that why should I pay for it? Even if it's a loan, they equate the loan to the course fee payment sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
so that makes sense when the parent is the borrower, right? But what if the subject, the borrower, is the same person who's sort of enrolled in that program? What I'm essentially trying to get is, how do you sort of model that risk, right? Because there is a much bigger bet. You're betting on a person's ability to convert that success in a coaching institute into a job, into a stream of cash flows.
No, and in coaching, we don't do that. And there are a lot of upskilling courses that we do, where the borrower himself is the person who has enrolled to upskill themselves. Okay. So but their underwriting does not play a key part, to be honest. We take into account the type of institute and courses that are being offered to the student, and whether there has been any mis-selling involved in that. When I say mis-selling, whether the course is apt for that student.
Sure.
So that is all that matters, because most of the students are salaried. Yes, they don't have a credit score, but they are salaried. They are 2 or 3 months of joining the job or 1 year of joining the job. They are salaried. They have an income. They can pay back the money. And they are tech savvy also. They understand कि आगे जाके मुझे लोन लेना है, so I should not default on loan. So upskilling में हमें वो सब issues ज़्यादा होता है नहीं.
Okay.
To be very frank. What the point that you are making plays a very key role in higher education.
Sure.
So where we have been going deeper into since the last year. So वहाँ पे we have a very different approach, I would say, to underwriting, where we take a personal interview of the student to basically understand. So we don't work in the tier 1 colleges. Tier 1 colleges mein there is a large penetration of the public sector banks who are open to giving loans there. tier 2, tier 3 colleges.
You don't do foreign also, I imagine. You
No,
don't.
we don't do foreign.
Interesting. So because everyone piggybacks on the institute only, na, in that space as of now. So you are consciously going in tier 2, tier 3, where where there is there's lack of data. हाँ,
Yes.
हाँ,
तो वहां पे हम लोग एक 30 minutes का इंटरव्यू सेटअप पहले करते हैं to gauge the employability of the student. Gauging the employability of the student, हम लोग अभी बिलीव करते हैं इज अ सब्जेक्टिव कॉल. हम लोग कुछ कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स देखते हैं, कुछ एनालिटिकल स्किल्स देखते हैं, बेसिक थिंग्स देखते हैं. वी डोंट लुक एट टेक्निकल नॉलेज पर से. वी जस्ट वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड उसका एनालिटिकल बेसिक एनालिटिकल स्किल्स है, प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग स्किल्स है. Does he understand what questions are being asked? Basic communication skills. On top of that, the last thing we look at is building. Does he understand what he wants to do? Does he know what are the steps he needs to take to get there? So these are some of the features.
But this is interesting. So I mean, is this one of the factors in your model there, or you don't look at the like placement track record of the institute?
No, we look at. So the placement track records and everything. They are categorized into separate categories of institutes. A category, B category, C category. Let's say broadly. In each category, we have a confidence level of what is the placement probability of that particular person. The interview will just change the probabilities. Like if a person is in B category institute, but the interview experience is good, then you will be bumped up to an A category average student. So those things happen. So the quality of the institute matters. The quality of the student matters. The parents also.
But I guess the quality of the institute is more of a fixed parameter, right? I mean, it doesn't. It changes gradually. I'm sure it changes over time, but it's not very real time, right? The quality of the student
it
is.
will change once in a year or so.
Yeah.
But the other two pieces are probably key ingredients to pricing the loan, right? Or is it just for qualifying whether it's whether
pricing the loan is not the right way of looking at it. So there are two earning parties to an education loan: the parents and the student. So what sort of weightage should be given to the student's earning comes from this interview and the category of college and course that is stepping into. The earning capacity of the parent is taken separately. So both of them together decide what type of loan amount should be given, because what sort of EMIs they will be fine with, what sort of step-up EMI should be there, and all those things. So all those things come into that.
So parents' earning potential role is in every lending product you have. Like, is there any product which does not get tied to parents' potential?
So yes, actually, the view we are currently taking in the market is that the fees have increased by leaps and bounds in the last 2 years. The starting income of the students, to be honest, have not increased at that rate.
Yes.
So if I start giving the standard education loan product that banks do, with a moratorium built in and no payment coming in, the sort of EMIs that the students have to pay will tie them into the loan for almost 10 to 12 years minimum. And we don't believe that is a good product out there. We believe that fees have increased, so now parents have to step in to pay a portion of their fees, and the students can pay a portion of their fees. So based on what is the potential income of the student and taking a haircut on that, and what is the FOIR that they will be comfortable with, we design the EMIs for post-morat like that. The rest of the loan has to be repaid to some extent by the parents.
Okay.
So it's a parent plus student model that we follow. So in good colleges where the student potential is large, there we don't need the parent. So it automatically builds into the model, but we don't do it that way. We always
understood. And all of them are unsecured products?
All of them are unsecured products.
So if you have to like bucket the product offering, right? You obviously look at like supplementary category, right? Be it coaching, etc. You look at upskilling. Then now you are lately also going into the higher education domain. But like your bread and butter right now would be the first bucket? First and second,
yes.
Probably?
Yes, first and second. The third space has been started in the last 1 year. So it requires a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Knowledge in that, because knowledge about that ecosystem is not that great, to be honest, in the market. So we cannot take inputs from someone because most people have not done it. So getting inputs or understanding that ecosystem requires a lot of time and investment into understanding.
Because it's tier 2, tier 3. Probably tier 1 and offshore is...
Tier 1 is standardized, so it is understandable.
So that's how probably you're different from someone like Leap Finance, right? Who are looking at like maybe offshore, foreign and tier 1.
Leap Finance, so the difference between the offshore focused players and us is that offshore focused player mein jo people who are coming there, who want their kids to be educated abroad, most of them, they are very well off. Compared to the type of customer segments we are dealing with. We are dealing with sons of vegetable vendor owners. We are dealing with sons of chicken shop owners. We are dealing with sons of farmers, where they are looking to get a basic level domestic education. Underwriting them where there is no data is far more difficult. And Leaf Finance and all, they will be either good salaried or they will be rich businessmen. If Leaf Finance does not work, then they can dispose of some assets to...
उनका TGO 30-40 million है.
हाँ.
Right?
उनका है. मतलब वो काफी comfortable वाले. थोड़े हमारे comparison में वो बहुत comfortable.
Right. And आपके case में like in these 3 buckets, can you give us some sense of what kind of average ticket size and loan tenures you look at? Like be it coaching, be it upskilling, and obviously higher education is new, I understand, but like what's the classic?
Higher education में online we have started some 3 years back. So online वाला हमारे पास काफी volume है, but offline वाला we have started in the last 1.5 years. To give you sense of the ticket sizes, in supplementary the ticket sizes will be somewhere between 1 to 1.5 lakhs. So Alan Akash का coaching का fees भी थोड़ा काफी ज्यादा है compared to what we used to pay. I think मेरे time पे it was 40,000 for 1 year. Now it is almost 1.2 lakhs or 1.5.
Right.
वहाँ पे उतना है. फिर upskilling में आते ही it goes from somewhere around 1 lakh to 2.5 lakhs sort of range.
And when you do like 1 lakh, when you say 1 lakh includes any down payment or like you do 100%?
रहता है, I think 1-2 down payment because they have a registration fee, most of these institutes. So that is non-refundable in nature. So if I give it in the form of a loan, it will create some issues with the customers.
Got it. Understood.
So वहाँ पे थोड़ा डाउन पेमेंट रहेगा. I think 10-20 हजार का कुछ registration fees रहता है. That will be the down payment.
Right.
In upskilling it will, like I said, 1 lakh start होकर 2-2.5 lakh तक भी जाता है.
Right.
There are smaller ticket size, but loan का फिर value नहीं रहता. We don't do much smaller ticket size loan. 75 से start मतलब हमारा start होता है. मतलब करते हैं थोड़े 40-50,000 also, but the key focus is beyond 75,000 1 lakh.
Right.
What is the tenure for such a ticket size?
So in supplementary, most of our products are zero cost in nature. So it works like a Bajaj Finserv product. So वहाँ पे 10-12 महीने का रहता है. It's a convenience product. People have that money. We just are extending the convenience to them. Like आराम से pay कर लीजिए. In upskilling,
तो उसमें your revenue comes from the institute side.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
We have.
So you don't make any interest income on that.
We don't make separate interest income from the customers. Yes. For customers, it will become a zero cost, but our revenue.
It's all, it kind of obviously gets baked in.
Yes. It's just like how Bajaj works. All the zero cost products in Flipkart and Amazon. Very similar to that.
Right.
In the upskilling bit, the ticket sizes are larger and the type of income that people have will be slightly in the 30,000 to 50,000, 60,000. And so it becomes difficult to pay these fees upfront. So typical tenures will be around 18 to 24 months sort of period and around 1 lakh to 2.5 lakh range.
Right. But obviously you are now, I mean, from upskilling where I think more focus is on the parent end. In supplementary, in upskilling, the lens is a bit more on the core user, correct?
On the student after he has passed out. So I'm looking at both extremes and then I'm coming to the middle basically.
Correct. And you don't like, इसमें कोई parent assets वगैरह का कुछ नहीं है. You don't like do all of that, right? It's all...
We are taking bet on the profile of the customer.
Got it.
And whether it's the right fit to take that upskilling course. We don't want people जिसका कुछ फायदा नहीं होगा वो बैठ के upskilling कर रहे हैं to just get into a job which they believe can happen.
Understood.
So that is the second part. वहाँ पे tenures will be around 18 to 24 months. Ticket sizes like I said. Third segment is the higher education. जो online वाले segments हैं in higher education, like distance learning has come in quite a big way in the last few years after AICTE made that announcement that private universities can also give distance learning, like a proper BCom, BBA course from MIT you can get sitting at home, basically. MIT or LPU at such place. There are some 10-15 colleges which have been given that way. That is one part. The other part is the likes of upgrade, great learning, where they are tying up with a foreign university and enabling that entire course, where the degree that you get is from that particular foreign university. Right. So that is also a degree. That is an add-on degree that you take up. So, यहाँ सब में the ticket sizes will start from somewhere around 2 lakhs, can go up to 5 lakhs sort of thing online.
Interesting.
And the tenures will start at around 24 months and will go up to 4-5 years. Offline, it starts from 5 lakhs, almost 4 to 5 lakhs fees. And it can go up to 15, 20 if you are taking MBBS, 50 lakhs, 1 crore also.
Yeah, and the moratoriums typically for high.
Moratoriums are there, but we typically don't give the full moratorium options. So we have not given it. We have given it to very few students, to be very frank. We want the repayment behavior to start from day zero, like I said. And the second part is the fees have increased to such an extent. If I give full moratorium, the EMIs that will be due, the students won't be able to pay. Right. So because of these two reasons, we go for a mixed sort of model where you at least make the interest payment from day zero. Or if you want to make life easier for your kids, then you slightly make higher payments during the study period itself. So all those things get paid.
It probably also impacts the book's IRR, I guess, right?
It does not actually. If I give moratorium, I make more money because my principal outstanding is not depleting over time. So if I give the 5 lakh rupee with morat, that's why banks like giving morat options. To be honest, like on the same loan, in morat and non-morat options, you make more money. Because the interest on interest starts building up, right? There is no principal depletion that is happening. So it starts building up. So the amount of money that you need to make as an overall interest payment on the loan
that will
increases quite a bit, to be very frank.
What's the like? Let's talk a bit about the business model, Bibhu, in the sense that when you are you an NBFC? Do you lend from your own books? You have partner lenders. You kind of act like a DSA, and you have a take rate. Like how would be very helpful to.
These things were defined by the ecosystem for us. To be very frank, in the initial stages, we found it very difficult to raise equity capital. Who is going to take a bet on people who have no experience in credit risk and creating something in a new ecosystem? So it was difficult to raise both equity capital and debt capital. So to ensure that we are able to survive, I would say we chose the option which was more of a DSA sort of model.
Right.
Where we will earn a fixed fees and we will prove that market, and then we will have our own book when the ecosystem starts believing in us or trusting us that we can do a better job.
And I guess, I mean, there are some very specific lenders who kind of go into this domain, right? I mean, especially, because you're looking at unsecured, right? So you'll be looking at like what, HDFC, Credilar, Incred types of guys, or.
So they are all abroad players. So the type of customer segment, the type of underwriting they do is very, very different from what we are doing.
So who are your lenders in the beginning?
We tied up with very small lenders initially. I think you may not have heard of them. They're very small lenders, 25-30 crores of AUM.
Interesting.
Because those were the ones who wanted to grow their business.
Right.
So they agreed to tie up. That was the first stepping stone. Then the bigger lenders started coming in. The last 3 lenders, all our lenders are AAA, AA rated, big, with almost combined AUM of 80-90,000 crores and all.
But these are NBFCs, banks?
NBFCs primarily.
Got it.
And when the initial guys, sort of the smallish, you were saying when they had small books, what kind of IRRs or APRs were they expecting on their sort of, their investment? Was there a hurdle rate that they used to ask, what are you pricing it at so that I get my whatever, 10-15%, whatever the number is? What was that number? I mean, out of curiosity.
It is very old thing. We started up back in 2018-19.
Yeah.
18, I think. So this time, it was very large. some were charging us 17-18%, some were charging up to 23-24% also.
Because they'll probably adjust for their FX swings as well.
It was not effects, it was just bargaining power. They had more bargaining power. We were untested blokes in the market. So we wanted to prove that the desperation was from our side, not from theirs.
But actually, it's lower than what I thought, I would have expected even higher.
18-20% is a bare minimum. But for them to get 18%, you're probably trying to generate at least 22, 23, 24%, right? Instead of
25, 26%. Otherwise, equity bhi nahi tha na. I could not burn my money. Yeah. So I had to somehow make things work from the earning that I was making from that. Yeah. So, it was a difficult starting point, to be frank.
But the good thing is that, when you create a lending book, not a lot of people have the ability to start doing it from wholesale debt from day one. A lot of people start building their businesses by underwriting of equity and then gradually become big. And
we did not have the equity also. So my problem was twofold. Neither had debt, neither had equity. So that was a problem. But yes, so that was the DSA model we started off. But DSA model did not work out because the lenders did not have product exposure to this segment. So the type of credit underwriting that was being done, that was provided to us, was a underwriting that most of the lenders followed for personal loan. And that loan, that customer behaves in a very different way. यहाँ पे induced controlled होता है क्योंकि हम direct fees institute के account में देते हैं. There is a sort of pressure from the institute. There is a support that institute gives us if a student is not attending or student is saying I will not pay back money, or parents are saying I don't want to pay back the money. So the institutes help us in collections, and also they took the lens of a personal loan player which could not work out for us. So DSA model could not work out. So we moved from a DSA model to an FLDG sort of model where we say we will do the underwriting, we will do everything. You just provide the capital. If there are NPAs, then we will bear the risk.
Okay.
And at that point of time, we had raised a small round, I would say, of around $2 million. And we started the FLDG with.
And this is before the digital norms came, right? In terms of FLDG. So you, what was?
Came in last year.
आप कितना ले रहे थे exposure classic अपने उसमें on the FLDG end? अब तो 5% पे capped है ना?
अभी तो 5% पे capped है. जब हमने start किया था, तब हमारे 15-20% तक clickbait था.
Right.
But since after that we have proved our ability to underwrite things better than what they have done. So for all the lenders, I believe we would be their premium partners. No matter, even if we are partnered with big AAA lenders who have partnered with all the big players in the ecosystem doing hundreds of crores every month, we will still be the best NPA performance portfolio. We believe that. I think the feedback has to be taken from the lenders, but we believe we will be one of the premium portfolios that they have taken. We always had that in my mind, that for a lending model to succeed in education, we want to break the barriers that people have in their heads कि ये गंदा portfolio है, यहाँ पे NPA ज़्यादा होता है, then you need to give them a performance that is not heard of.
Best in class. Right.
Best in class.
I just want to, I know you touched on it loosely, but collections, right? I mean, for programs, for loan durations, which is 12 months or which tie up with the term length of the program itself, then I guess the heavy lifting on the collection side is done by the institution, like you said. But what about the loan?
Not the heavy lifting. Heavy lifting is done by us.
So how do you manage that? Do you have a call center for it, or like how does that team work?
We have the entire. So India is a collection-led lending ecosystem. To be very frank, it's not about
nicely put.
तो वो भी हमने रियलाइज किया. हम जब स्टार्ट किए थे हमें लग रहा था मैं बस क्रेडिट फिल्टरिंग कर दूंगा, मैं अच्छे लोग ले आऊंगा तो अपने आप पैसे आने लग जाएंगे, बट दैट इज नॉट ट्रू एक्चुअली. मतलब हमने रियलाइज किया है थोड़ा कलेक्शन एफर्ट लगता ही है. So we have an in-house telecalling team, we have an on-ground collections team, we have agency tie-ups, but the most critical part of the collection team is an institute liaising team that we have within the collection team. So most of the time हमारा जो issues होता है with repayment, it is not because parents के पास पैसे नहीं है या फिर वो देना नहीं चाहते, वैसा नहीं है. It is because they have some issues with the institutes and they are taking it out on us.
Yeah.
Basically.
They don't make the demarcation na ki like for them institute and you are synonymous, right?
Yeah. तो मेरे बच्चों को अच्छे से नहीं पढ़ाया, मैं क्यों पैसे दूं?
Got it.
So वो सब चीजों के लिए हमारा एक liaising team types रहता है which constantly interacts with the institutes to resolve any conflicts that the students or the parents are having with the institute. That is the key cornerstone of our NPA being under control. If I would have run it like a standard collection process, I think my NPAs would have been far higher than what we are seeing right now.
So if you think in another way, you are making the educational institutions much more efficient or much more better at pleasing the parents of the students, right? I mean, if you're stepping into a sort of it's almost a qualitative role, right? Like
customer resolution.
करना पड़ेगा आपको because we are financing a service. We're not financing a product. Product का क्या होता है जब आपको पता होता है what you are getting into or what you are buying. सर्विस का आपको पहले पे करके बाद में पता चलता है उसका क्वालिटी क्या है and it is very subjective. The same teacher can teach one student very nicely, but another student may not like the way that teacher is teaching. It's a very subjective thing. So the institutes are providing a service. So what we are requesting the institutes to do is basically take a sort of service guarantee on it. Like कि मेरा जो service है वो अच्छा है. अगर मेरा service अच्छा नहीं है तो I will take steps to remedy that. That's all we are asking. जैसे product में warranties होता है, तो institutes give some sort of backing कि हाँ मैं service दिया बोला है तो दूंगा. That's what we are looking.
But is there like some sort of stop loss arrangement with the institutes, or is this all soft push and
नहीं,
like
stop loss भी रहता है.
Yeah. Because they must be having some minimum obligations, na, which they need to fulfill, right? वो सब तो आपका baked in.
क्योंकि there are institutes which will crash and burn. To be very frank, like in the last 3 to 4 years, we would have seen a lot of people getting funding, running their education institutes, and suddenly shutting shop and not being able to continue their services. But loans तो चलते रहेंगे, right? So in such cases, we take some sort of comfort from the institutes that कि अगर कुछ गड़बड़ होता है तो I have something to take care of that.
And this is probably more relevant to the third bucket, right? That you have. सबसे ज़्यादा. I mean, I imagine. I mean, no, not the higher education.
Higher education, mein universities don't care.
Right.
The universities won't give all such sort of soft guarantees or something. They will help us.
Oh, so you're talking about supplementary. You're talking about like coaching institutes and stuff. वहाँ पे risk है. Interesting. I thought वो तो.
They are not a regulated entity as such.
Right.
वहाँ पे रहते हैं.
Interesting.
Education में we take care of it on their own because mostly the parents know what they are getting into. Right. They are getting into get a degree out of that. They don't have any false expectations of placements or something. So we ensure that in our interview. So we pick and choose parents who don't have any misconceptions in their head about what they were getting into when they are taking the course or something. But when you look at the supplementary space, there can be some levels of mis-selling that can happen, and you must have heard about it in the last few years about some of the selling practices of education institutions.
Yes. But they're much more competitive as well, right?
Just one. I was just curious, like for you, like vetting the institutes, right? I mean, do you? Like, how do you look at your TG? You look at your TG in the sense that wherever I know financing can be done, I go there first and then institute part will be figured out later. Or you are like, no, I have my impaneled institutes or impaneled centers. There is some quality threshold that has been looked at there.
Yes, we do a basic verification check. Teachers ठीक ठाक हैं, कितने सालों से पढ़ा रहे हैं, बच्चों का.
So पूरा partner led है सारा जो.
It is partner led, not. Supplementary was that way.
Right.
Upskilling was that way. Yeah. Higher education is not that.
Not that way. So, like in higher education, like, do you have some other criteria? Like, okay, government setup mein, if the student is going, then it's a better thing for me rather than a private college. Like,
नहीं. सबके हम data निकालते हैं.
Right.
Categorization होगा.
Right.
Student का interview लिया जाएगा. We believe कि बच्चा अच्छा है तो वो कहीं से
निकाल लेगा.
मार लेगा. वो fight मारने वाला होना चाहिए. अच्छा भी नहीं चाहिए. We don't want him to be very good in technical skills or something. He should be ready to put in the hard work to get to where he wants.
But the course matters though, right? I mean, is someone getting a master's in, let's say, computer science?
Yeah, STEM program है ये वो सब थोड़ा.
तो वो जो institute rating होता है, so it is not an institute rating per se, it's the institute plus course rating.
Course rating.
That course rating.
So, considering you're so closely linked to the education market, are if we were to ask you like general trends in terms of where you are seeing the demand come from, or even a high level view on how the economic outlook is, or what jobs, what courses are going to lead to what kind of jobs. Are there any interesting insights that you see? Like, I mean, people are taking a lot of, I don't know, political science, or less of more of AI engineering. Like, are there any read-throughs that have surprised you in the last, let's say, 5-6 years?
Definitely. Otherwise, आपके इनके बहुत बढ़ सकता है. If you don't know कि where people are headed in 1 year's time, then be ready to take a lot of loss.
Yeah.
So, there were quite surprising trends. Till now, we have been decent enough to recognize those trends before those trends took place. Like, for example, tech पे जब बढ़ रहा था तब we were a part of that journey, and we like crazy with all the institutes which were offering tech focused courses for developers, जो front end back end developers होते हैं, and all those things. So we wrote that. At that time AI पे हम लोग इतना bullish थे नहीं. हमने किया है to AI नहीं बोलूँगा, data science was also, people were a lot of bullish there, but हमें उसका employability पे थोड़ा ये था कम पड़ता, so we did not go very aggressive in that space, data science space. We only tied up with the premier institutes, not the long tail. But coding में जैसे we tied up with everyone that was ready to tie with us. So we took that bet. Last year में जैसे कि हमें 12 months से थोड़ा लग रहा है कि the tech space में थोड़ा hiring कम हो रहा है. So some of the students started complaining कि job नहीं लग रहा है, they're not able to get. So we are now taking a more controlled approach to it. Maybe the things have not happened. Maybe tech hiring is going on okay, I would say. But हमें लग रहा है कि थोड़ा आगे problem हो सकता है. तो we take those bets. So even engineering में हम लोग थोड़ा कम growth देख रहे हैं compared to other. मतलब B.Tech was increasing like crazy. We believe it is in a declining growth phase. I will not say it is not growing, but it is in a declining growth phase, and engineering से थोड़ा interest हट रहा है लोगों को. People are going into more generalist courses.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess ये parallels जो higher education और supplementary में, they must be kind of resonating in both, right? I imagine like supplementary maybe you must be looking more at like, IIT, IIM, UPSC type, right? And that kind of, I'm a bit interested in the upskilling part because there the universe is very wide, right? I mean, there it can be very, very specific also. Usme, what are you seeing?
Upskilling में online जो degrees होते हैं ना, उसका demand हमें लग रहा है बढ़ेगा.
Okay. People will choose not to like do it online.
So basically, people who are going into, let's say, a tier 2, tier 3 college in a tier 2, tier 3 city,
right,
where people don't know the name of the college and what the output is going to be. If they are able to, let's say, get a course from MIT, maybe it's a BCom degree.
Right.
So they will choose for that. वो हमें दिख रहा है, and we believe that is on an upward trend. अगर आप बाहर जा नहीं पा रहे, इतना खर्चा करना नहीं चाहते हैं, and इंडिया में कोई अच्छे कॉलेज में, because India में supply demand gap is very high.
But I understand like you are involved from a financing standpoint, but in terms of outcomes, do you see equivalency कि भी मैं एमिटी में फिजिकली जाके पढ़ रहा हूँ या फिर मैं किसी दूर शहर में हूँ और मैं एमिटी का ऑनलाइन कोर्स कर रहा हूँ, and I'm getting some certification or degree, do you see any big delta in my career trajectory? Yeah, you think कि synonymous है? I mean, this is a comment on your partners, not on you, to be fair.
So for me, okay, let me take a step back. Online mediums have not worked. We believe will not work out well for kids. Kids, when I say, जब आप KG से लेकर 12th तक, वहाँ पे लोगों को थोड़ा पीट के पढ़ाना पड़ता है.
Yes.
मतलब वैसा है कि हमें लगता है कि वहाँ पे the offline is going to be the core thesis. Online will always be add-on. मतलब आप फिजिक्स वाला ले सकते हैं, आप बाकी जो ऑनलाइन वेदांतु है और या फिर अनअकैडमी के ऑनलाइन पार्ट्स है, दे विल ऑलवेज बी एन ऐड ऑन टू योर ऑफलाइन मोड ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन. बट जैसे लोग थोड़ा बड़े हो जाते हैं ना, वो थोड़ा मोर करियर पे फोकस हो जाते हैं. तो जैसे यूपीएससी एस्पिरेंट्स को जब हम फंड करते हैं, वो ऑनलाइन में भी कोर्स कंप्लीशन रेट इज फार हाई.
Right.
And if the course completion rate is there, then people are going to be decent. मतलब प्रॉब्लम होता है कि लोग ड्रॉप आउट कर जाते हैं.
Right. You want driven people essentially, right? Who are driven, yeah.
the people who are driven enough to do it, वो कर जाएंगे काम. मतलब हमें
नहीं, but अगर अपन हायर एजुकेशन के लेंस में देखें between online and offline, say A is I like let's look at the Amity example, right?
अगर Amity में offline और online students में करेंगे, then there is a difference. But अगर आप बोल रहे हैं कि Amity का online student compared to let's say कोई गांव का tier 4 college, then maybe the Amity guy will be better. Maybe he will know how to. We don't know that. But वो feel है, वो लोगों में at least feel है. So people are choosing this. कि मैं गांव में जाके क्यों वो छोटा सा कोर्स करूं जिसको कोई नहीं जानता, मैं एमईटी से ही कर लेता हूं, थोड़ा तो कुछ सीख. सो वी डोंट नो वेदर अगर वही बंदा अपने गांव के स्कूल कॉलेज में पढ़ के will that guy be better than whether he had taken the MIT course? That is something we are yet to see.
Because I guess the true benchmark of higher education still in our country is placement, right? I mean, in terms of success. I mean, I understand एक idealistic scenario में देखा जाए, but when you look at like mass market like ours, true benchmark तो वही है ना. It's a very opaque world. Like generally service delivery तो होगी, लेकिन service fulfillment के बाद जो outcome है उसका ज़्यादा data भी मिलता नहीं है. To be fair, barring the marquee names, yeah.
Correct. नहीं मिलता.
Based on your target segment, especially let's say for higher education and all, there is a migration element as well, right? So which opens up like living costs and rental costs or something. Now that can be quite high as well. That could probably be as much. And so that's sort of non-tuition based lending for. So how does this? Now you can't partnerize that the way you've partnerized.
No, it's a personal loan to their parents, basically.
Which offers similar terms to what a student loan, what a tuition loan would be like in terms of pricing.
Personal loan, so personal loan se sasta hoga, but maybe tuition loan se thoda expensive.
Do you see a lot of people who are sort of, taking up on those options as well to sort of fund their living expenses because it's important?
College fees ही इतना ज़्यादा हो गया ना, तो if people get funding for the college fees, they take care of their living expenses. तो वो हो रहा है. But some people choose for it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I mean, what is the long-term vision here, Bibhu? Like, sort of, yes, we're lending to under interesting dynamic where there's a big supply-demand mismatch. There is obviously going to be demand for education and prices are going up. So, I mean, all those check in terms of simple check, our market is growing. What is sort of the idea is to sort of be the number one premium underwriter for any aspirant student who wants to sort of upskill, learn, or go fulfill their degree requirements. And is that sort of the thing, or is it sort of more to even get into sort of an advisory role, even look at sort of helping find the right candidates and personality development angles, because you're already sort of doing a little bit of that, right, and vetting out the right guys, and which is helping you price the product or even disperse it. So I know we're very early, abhi to bahut market capture karna hai, I get that, but how do you sort of see yourself expanding?
Basically, हमें एक चीज when we are going back to our basis कि हमने start क्यों किया था. We wanted to give financing options to people who did not have access to financing, and बाकी सब market से ये चीज ज़्यादा हमें दिखता है in the higher education market. The type of customer segments that are coming there, you won't be able to ever give any form of credit to them if you are going by their documents or anything. Their penetration हो ही नहीं सकता. I think we love it when we are able to give products to customers जिनको कभी भी बैंक दे ही नहीं सकता. So we love it कि हम farmers को दे पा रहे हैं. We love it कि हम लोग small shop owners को दे पा रहे हैं because उनका बच्चा अच्छा पढ़ रहा है. Yes, I have other surrogates, but that surrogacy also builds a sort of credit history for that customer segment, right? So मतलब all customer segments are underwritable if the end use is it is for a proper use case sort of. So we are very excited by the concept that we will be able to give education loans to people who either would never have had access to that education loan product, and maybe they would have taken a suboptimal career decision because of that. Because अगर tier 1 में नहीं होता, tier 1 में people take aspirational decision. अगर आप tier 2, tier 3 में जाते हैं ना, people अपने मतलब कितना है उनके पास पैसे उसके हिसाब से डिसीजन करते हैं. मेरे पास तो 4 लाख ही है, मेरे बच्चों को इसी टाइप के कॉलेजेस में पढ़ाऊंगा, तो इसी टाइप के कॉलेजेस में कौन सा बेस्ट है. बट इफ आई कम देयर, maybe he will be able to take that student to the next level if he is good enough. So we are excited about that ऑप्टिक जो हम दे सकते हैं एक फैमिली को. तो the objective is to create that product segment and prove that domestic education is a tenable portfolio that should be created, and in any growing economy education loan penetration should be deep enough. मतलब अगर आप कहीं पर डेवलप्ड कंट्री का देखेंगे, नॉट यूरोपियन कंट्रीज में loan education loans are not a big market, it's more socialist in construct. They have a socialist outlook towards education. But US market, after housing loan, education loan is the second largest loan segment, because वो बहुत, अगर एक फैमिली के लाइफ टाइम पे आपका खर्चे देखेंगे, सबसे ज्यादा हाउस में खर्चा करता है, उसके बाद एजुकेशन में ही आ जाता है. आप 20 साल का उसके एक्सपेंस देखिए. तो एजुकेशन लोन पेनिट्रेशन शुड बी गुड इनफ सो दैट we are able to ensure कि हमारे जो next generation है, they are being educated to the most optimum level that they should be educated. So we are excited by that. So we don't know where we will end up at, but हम लोग इसी पे ही फोकस करना चाहते हैं, because इसमें बहुत चीजें बिल्ड करना बाकी है. Sure. Distribution बाकी है, underwriting like I said, we believe कि we have a process to figure it out. Liability side figure out करने हैं, लंबे टर्म के लोन है, housing loan के लिए तो government has put in a lot of like NHB and all are there, who gives good form of liquidity for long-term loans which have been given in the form of housing loans. But education के लिए वैसा नहीं है. तो हमें equity raise करना है, कैसे lenders को convince करें कि मतलब हम पे भरोसा करेंगे, तो it will prove out to be a portfolio at par with what they have seen in housing loans and all. So there is a long journey to play.
Yeah, so it's interesting because like housing में the asset में subjectivity कम है. Asset घर है, पता है value क्या है, 10 लोग बता देंगे, you'll probably converge to the same price. But education as an asset is not very intuitive, right? I mean, there's so much subject. So it's
मुझे debt capital raise करने में बहुत issues हैं. So we need to figure those things out. We are working on a couple of models with banks, with our lenders. We have figured it out to the scale that we are at, but figuring it out at a 6,000, 7,000 crore level is something that we are excited about.
Bibhu, last point, you briefly mentioned about fundraising. I mean, now you've raised around like 40 million, I think, to date.
We raised around 35 million in the last one. उससे पहले I think 38.
But like you obviously aspire to be, like you started as a DSA, then you moved towards the FLDG model. Now probably you're going towards a very full service lending model.
We just got one of our subsidiary got the NBFC license, so we have started conducting business with them. We want to do it.
But lending is very interesting because lending is not the most venture friendly play, right? I mean, especially if it's not like if it's not the Flipkart embedded finance play at all. तो नहीं है, right? So,
but it's not venture friendly, but it is PE friendly. So if you are
absolutely. But that was you were clear about that from day one, or you when you hit the market, you kind of got that feedback and you sensed
rejections के बाद पता चला कि
because इसमें तो सब execution and team है, right? I mean, it's process, correct? The more and more you do,
process, underwriting, and बाद में पता चलता है हमने जो किया है वो सही है कि नहीं. तो there's a long gestation period,
right?
And but once the gestation period ends,
right,
आपको funds की कमी नहीं होगी. There are a lot of PEs because it's a more stable form of business. आप एक दिन में नीचे नहीं जाएंगे, एक दिन में ऊपर नहीं जाएंगे,
right?
But हाँ, तो नीचे भी नहीं जाएंगे, ऊपर तो नहीं जाएंगे, but नीचे भी नहीं जाएंगे,
right?
So and many people know how to manage NBFC. So there is a lot of talent in the market which you can tap into. So things play out if you are able to survive those initial.
Got it. And I guess with like marquee PE names on the cap table, now kind of attracting wholesale credit also becomes less of a challenge, right?
नहीं, product वो कोई करता नहीं है ना. PL का अगर मैं बनाता तो it would have been
that there's still an education needed there. There's still some level of education or alignment needed there.
हाँ, मैं भी NBFCs के साथ करता हूँ. Banks के level पे I need to work far more closely with the banks to give them that confidence. I will not say education, they know the market, but I think to give them that confidence कि maybe what I am doing will give some good results.
वो track record है उसमें तो to show, right?
हाँ,
that's the sell.
Track record हो गया तो थोड़ा दिखा सकते.
Right.
What have been the NPS like?
It has been consistently within a 1%.
Oh, very interesting.
Okay. That's very good.
Yes.
Because that's NPA accretive, accretive dilutive, whichever we look at it for any wholesale lender, right? I mean, you can make that pitch that it brings
exactly. And this is an unsecured loan.
Yeah.
Unsecured loan पे 1% NPA is unheard of. So that's why I said कि हमें prove करना था कि मतलब when we if you want to gain the trust, then you have to have a best in class by a large margin. Then only people will start कि हाँ कुछ अलग कर रहे हैं, वरना वो problem हो जाए.
But on a lighter note, people लोग ये बोलेंगे कि ठीक है अभी तो एनपीए सब 1% है, लोन बुक जैसे ही बढ़ाओगे आपका एनपीए भी ऊपर भागेगा 2% के ऊपर. So it's always a trade off, right?
It's always a trade. Agree. तो भैया we'll have to work closely with the ecosystem, make them understand our point of view, understand what their problems are, and if we can come up with solutions to solve for that. So education institutes के साथ हमारा बहुत interaction इसीलिए problem solutioning पे होता है. And the same thing happens with our lenders also. Problem solutioning. कि what are their what is their fear, or what are the things that can go wrong for them, they believe. How can we take steps to ensure कि उनको वो डर ना रहे या फिर उनको वो चीज address. So lot of problem solving on the institute side as well as the lenders going forward also.
Can I ask, like, at what was the point when, like, what was the size of the loan book, let's say, with a best-in-class performance, when institutional funds got interested? This is okay. Now sufficient scale, track record hai. Like, what was that point?
छोटा ही था हमारा size, so around 180-200 crores का था portfolio under management, because it was a fintech model. I'm not saying with this mind.
But आपके केस में AUM and loans disbursed में बहुत ज़्यादा delta नहीं होगा ना? मतलब it's kind of like it's not very it's not very short. It's थोड़ा.
तो मैंने बहुत सारे loans कर चुके थे, so I would have disbursed around 500 crore का loan, and 200 was the outstanding at that point. But वो 500 crore का repayment pattern can give you an idea कि हाँ भाई ये कुछ अलग कर रहे हैं. 500 crore, and that would translate into average ticket size of 1 to 1.5 lakhs, right?
Right.
So number of students was also quite large.
Very high volume.
50,000 students पे हमने prove कर रखा. 50,000 customer set में we had proven कि we can do the underwriting and the collections.
So when you were at sort of like 500 crores, उसमें से मतलब आपके बुक पे तो सिर्फ मेरे ख्याल से वो जितना FLDG का जितना 15% जो भी आपका एवरेज था, that is the exposure. बाकी सब पार्टनर
200 crore पे तो FLDG we provided on the outstanding because वही रिस्क होता है. तो 200 crore पे मेरे lenders were also very supportive of it, to be very frank. When they saw कि actually हमारा NPA is not what other people were doing, they were ready to also reduce the FLDG.
Right.
So FLDG guidelines से पहले ही हमारे FLDG were at that 5% 8% level. तो 200 crore पे मेरा मतलब 8 crore का कैपिटल. तो वो जो 12 crore रेज किया था,
interesting.
No, this was very interesting, Bibhu, and thanks a lot. I think we are all smarter about education lending by the end of this chat, and wish you all the best for bigger and more significant milestones in the future. We'll be obviously tracking and looking at things from the sidelines and cheering you. Thank you so much for your time. This is Nikhil Arora, with me is Sharad Tupran, signing off.